Hi, everybody. Welcome. I think we'll get started and see how we go. So, this is the accessibility surgery session. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully, this is going to be a good kind of hour or so. I think we've got until the wrap up keynote. I think that's the next thing on the agenda, something like that. Okay, so the way this session is going to work is this is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be so much just me talk at you for 45 minutes and then we see where we are. Um, this session is going to be split into kind of two parts. Short talk from me, just to set the scene, see how we're doing. I feel like I'm going to keep oscillating back and forth because the room's kind of split into two parts. Um, Short little intro to the topic of accessibility, help get everyone starting to think about questions, how it's affecting you. Hopefully, we'll identify a few commonalities between everybody. Um, this is also going out to remote attendees, I think, as well. So the way in which we're going to get the remote attendees to take part is we've got a Slido. Some of you may have already put some questions on there. We're going to take a look and see what people have asked already in a little while. And then we're going to break out into three separate groups because it's not just me here today. I've got my colleagues Ben and Georgia here as well. We've each had our own journeys through the world of accessibility, and we each have our own specialisms. So the idea is, for the second part of the session, is we are going to split the room roughly into threes, and you can choose your own expert depending on who you want to talk to. You may have had enough of me by that point, so Ben and Georgia, I hope, will take the slack. And then we can have some good conversations. We can try and help you out as much as possible with accessibility related questions you've got, what's kind of going on in your worlds, anything we can do. We've got plenty of time, three experts here, so kind of fill your boots is the idea. Right, with that said, I'll jump in if I can remember our slides. That's roughly what I've said. So we'll go on to the next one. As I've mentioned, there's three of us. There's myself, George Rhodes, my colleagues Ben Watson and Georgia Mann, and we will hear a little bit more about each of our individual specialisms in a bit. I'll do more of an intro for me, and Ben and Georgia will come and do their own when we do the choose your own expert bit. So, what is accessibility? Right, this is a phrase that gets thrown about quite a lot. I hear it in kind of cybersecurity discussions. I hear it in physical access discussions. I hear it in all kinds of things. When we're talking about accessibility, we're talking about removing objectively physical barriers to someone's ability to use your product, your service, your website, your space. A lot of times, this also has to do with disability as well. But this is something that, as I will come on to explain, actually affects all of us, everybody. And last point there, it affects both the physical and digital environments. I have two circles on the screen, one larger, and inside the large one is another small one. The small one reads accessibility and the large one reads usability, because one of the things that we get asked quite a lot is how does this fit in with kind of UX design and various other bits and pieces. Accessibility is kind of a small subset of usability. So a lot of accessibility changes, and we'll talk about some of these in a bit, go on to have knock-on usability effects. So even if you think, oh, is it necessarily going to be worthwhile putting in a lot of effort to improve the access of our website for certain disabled user groups? What you might find is that by doing that, actually, you review your user journeys, you review the things that are on your website and all of the content you have on there and go, actually, we don't need some of this. We can shorten this journey. We can make this more easy to understand, more straightforward to get through. And so you get a general improvement to user experience across the board. So coming back to the accessibility affects everyone kind of thing. One of the things that gets thrown about quite a lot in our accessibility circles is the phrase accessible design is good design. Again, part of the usability bit. And that first point I've kind of just made. And it's not, as I've said, just for disabled people. We all need accessibility help. So quick audience participation thing, show of hands. how many people use subtitles or captions on their videos, the streaming services, Netflix, things like that? Quite a few of you. Okay. How many of you are deaf? Is it not as many as the people that put their hands up? Yeah. So this is a really great example. That, or spell check, I often give as an example as well, because that started off as a dyslexia thing, just like captions and subtitles started off more as a deaf and hard of hearing support. And now actually it's something we all benefit from. Spell check, none of us would dare put out a document without actually making sure that we'd spelled everything and used the grammar and everything first. Likewise, there's a lot of reasons why actually having subtitles on our videos is very, very useful. So couple of nice examples there. Got a couple of stats as well. So 14 million people in the UK have some form of disability. 44% of people over the state pension age have a disability. So this is also something that affects us all as we get older. If you want to be selfish about it, I'm very keen that we fix accessibility, because when my eyes go, my hearing goes, to catch up with the fact my knees have already gone. I'm going to need some help. So selfishly, we're getting that in place now, so that by the time I'm old, we will have hopefully an easier time of it. This is a little example. I've stolen this from Ben, because this is one of his favourite pictures of all time. One of the things we get quite a lot, and hopefully this is something we can disprove in a minute, is that a lot of people think, right, accessibility, to make it work for everybody, it has to be boring. You can't do anything flashy. We're going to have to rip out old buildings and, you know, change things up too much and destroy things in order to make them work for everybody. This isn't true. And this is one of Ben's favorite pictures, because he very much likes the way that this accessible ramp has been nicely included into this historical church without the need to tear everything up. It's themed in a way that makes it unobtrusive. So it's just to demonstrate that actually, a lot of the time, we don't even have to make massive sweeping changes. We don't have to tear everything down. We can make additions and adjustments that help improve the accessibility while still maintaining the space, the website, the vibe, whatever it is. So why is it important to your business? I understand there's a lot of different types of organizations at this conference today. I think, what have I got down here? Private sector, councils, trusts and charities, universities, governments, broadcasters, and more. So I hope I've roughly covered everyone with the more there. Each of you will have different reasons why accessibility should be important to your work. But whatever the reasons, thinking about accessibility and incorporating it into what you do benefits you, your business, customers, and everybody. Okay. Again, we get, and I'm probably preempting some questions here, who knows, but we get a lot of questions about, oh, but we only have to do this for the public, or we only have to do this for X or Y group. We don't have to think about this for staff or for other areas. And it's like, are your staff not people? Are they not, you know, normal people with normal everyday requirements and things? We get a lot of, oh, we don't have any disabled staff. No disabled people here. And unsurprisingly, whenever someone says that, a number of their colleagues go, well, I'm disabled, or my child is disabled, or I've got another relative or friend or whoever it is who has whatever requirement. So this is something that we kind of overlook sometimes. It's something that we don't necessarily think about unless it is presented to us. But it is there and it affects everybody. And the thinking will help you, help your other colleagues, members of staff, help your customers, help everybody. So a few reasons why. We really could get into some of these. I'll tell you what, I can speak for, I think, at least 8 hours on legal obligations. So we haven't got time for that today. But there are a lot of legal requirements out there. You know, there's certainly many bits of regulation around building requirements, you know, fire safety, things like that. If we're talking about websites, if any of you are public sector bodies, councils, or anything like that, you maintain parks, all kinds of stuff. you may be susceptible to the Public Sector Bodies, Websites and Mobile Applications #2 Accessibility Regulations 2018. And you can tell just how many times I've said that in the last 5 years since they came out. And at the end of the day, we all have responsibilities under the Equality Act as well, to name just a few. So if you want to talk regs, come and find me afterwards. Moral obligations, I'm sure we can all see why it would be a benefit to offering fair and equal access, the ability for people to get on independently without having to rely on support or adjustments or waiting, and eventually getting support where everyone else would just be able to kind of stroll straight in. And we want to do that because we're nice people and we want to help and we want everyone to have a good time and, you know, positive vibes. So what else have we got? Comms and engagement. There's a lot to show in terms of like SEO benefits and improvements to comms, certainly avoiding negative backlash, which is quite useful. We had the previous session on social media. One thing that I always bring up, and Georgia is the expert on social media, so questions her way at the end. But one example I always bring up is, do people remember the 2019 general election? This was a little while ago now. Back in the 2019 general election, a lot of prospective MPs were setting out what they were going to offer for their constituents. Now, I'm not going to talk about whether they delivered it or not, but the point is they were making their play for becoming an MP, and they would walk lovely down the streets of whichever constituency they were going to hopefully be the MP of, and they would say, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to, you know, do all of these wonderful things. And none of the videos had any captions. So they say, oh, we want to represent everyone in this constituency, apart from the deaf, apparently, apart from people that watch the videos on silent. And so they just see someone walking down the street, they don't know what's going on, they don't know what the offer is. And this is kind of changing. I think now captions are becoming way more of a common thing in a lot of the social media video content we put out. But it's a good example because in backlash to that, a lot of deaf communities started using the hashtag no caption, no vote, which was all about if you're saying you represent everyone, but you aren't being inclusive, then you're not representing everyone. And we won't vote for you. So it has impact. Make more money. The reason why I have a large purple pound on the sign is because, well, actually it's a white pound sign in a purple circle. But anyway, purple pound is the terminology we often throw about to refer to the spending power of disabled people. There are millions on the table from disabled users. They make up about 20% of the population. So when you think, would you really want to say, oh no, we're going to leave that fifth of the business just on the table there, because actually we don't want to make a few small adjustments to try and engage that large portion of the population? It doesn't make any sense. So certainly there are monetary benefits to trying to deliver as accessible a service as possible. Supporting staff and customers, I've kind of covered that. Physical estates, you know, this is something that we see more and more. Probably the thing we see most kind of BBC News stories about is someone was denied access because they got to a stage like this and there wasn't a ramp up onto the stage, or they got to a bus and were told, no, you can't come onto this bus. That guide dog is black. As we all know, guide dogs can't possibly be black. And it's like, well, that's not true. Don't know where they got that from, but we see more and more things popping up about the way in which the physical estates and the way in which we allow people into spaces is often, whether intentionally or unintentionally, discriminatory. And so if you want to avoid negative news articles, that's certainly something to consider. Websites is another area I'm sure we could talk loads and loads about. Digital accessibility is becoming a massive thing. They've just updated the website, web content accessibility guidelines last month. And then recruitment is another area that's always worth talking about, because I don't know how many of you are signed up to the Disability Confidence Scheme as organisations, or are putting out, oh yeah, we really encourage disabled people to apply to our organisation. We want to be inclusive. But how many of us have checked the way in which we offer out job descriptions, whether the the templates are very accessible, whether the information we put on the website is accessible, whether the way we conduct interviews is accessible to a range of different people. So it's always good to have discussions about that as well. Right, that's kind of enough of me harping on just to get us thinking about a few little things. For remote participants, we have the Slido going, which also, if anyone's in the room and wants to submit Slido questions, please feel free and go ahead. After the surgery, we're going to get on with answering as many of these questions as we can. I hope it's all of them. We're also going to collate all of the questions and all of the answers. We're going to also put in links to useful resources and things. The idea of this being, after the conference, we're going to put it together into a document, quick and hopefully useful. Accessibility, FAQ from the conference, all the links and useful resources and stuff are there. So we get to have a nice output from the day as well. So please submit any questions. That's great. And like stuff that's already there rather than duplicating questions. What's the time? Do we have time for a couple of questions? See what's there. We had some really good questions already. It's all right. I do have them on my phone. I've just got a long password. Top question at the moment is, we've got more. What would you say is the #1 accessibility mistake organizations make in their comms, or top 3 if possible? Georgia, quick, top 3 comms. What's...
Thank you. I would go straight away with color contrast because people, we lean into our brand colors. But if you're putting that, going onto the stage. If you're putting your brand colors not through an accessibility check of color contrast, you're probably going to start missing people out. I would also go with fonts. So in Britain, it's about 1 in 5 people have dyslexia. So when we start using slightly illegible or somewhat fancier fonts, we're missing out a lot of people that might not be able to read it. And we discussed this earlier, links. If people are writing alt text, we'll go for 4. Alternative text, we're missing out people that aren't describing their images. We miss out people that are using screen readers. And then links, again, screen readers. There's a lot of click here, read more. And that is all that a user that's using screen reader will hear. We want unique and descriptive links instead.
There we go, top 4. Right, okay, so more questions in there. We will come and answer all of them afterwards, so that will be a lovely doc. I think that's almost it. 2 more slides, this one and one other for the remote, and then we're going to go on to the in-person bit. Where to go for more help? We have this website, not a shameless plug because it's free, makethingsaccessible.com. I'm very pleased with the name, I have to say. Basically, Ben and I also, well, actually, 3 of us work at universities as well. Ben and I lead 2 separate teams, and we started talking, right, how can we start sharing some of the documents we have? We've both got accessibility policies, we've both got procurement requirements, we've both got loads of different guidance for writing alt text and this, that, and the other. Make Things Accessible is the place that we decided to put together to put just a ton of our guidance up there for free so that we can reference it when we're doing training or things like this or whatever else. And also so everyone else can get access to hopefully some good stuff too. So please go and check it out. We're always adding new things. Hopefully that will be of use. And then the final thing, if any of this has piqued your interest and you want to come and talk to us beyond today, we do a load of stuff as well. We do website accessibility audits, all kinds of assessments and various bits and pieces, empathy labs, procurement help, a wide range of training, and you can get us at allable.co.uk or email us at info@allable.co.uk. Oh, right. That is the end of the remote slides. Thanks very much to the remote participants for joining us. Please go and submit Slido questions. And we'll kind of cut it there.